I was doing weekend on-call for a roadside assistance company because my rent was late. The plan was simple. Jump starts and lockouts until midnight, then drive straight home before the snow got serious. I had my jump pack, a toe strap I didn't trust, a half-full thermos, and a rule I kept repeating. Never leave the car running in a drift, never walk far from the vehicle, never just help someone off the shoulder. I'd already fought with dispatch twice that night because they kept slapping priority on garbage calls outside my zone, and when I pushed back they hit me with that fake nice tone like I was the problem for not wanting to die for 90 bucks. The storm hit faster than the forecast. 1 minute I saw taillights. The next minute I drove inside a white screen. The road vanished under powder and ruts. My phone bounced between one bar and none. I followed the faint shine of reflective posts until the post stopped. My wipers started losing, my headlights turned into a sad little tunnel, and every time I eased off the gas I could feel the tires skating like the car wanted to drift off and sleep. My last call pinged on the app anyway. Vehicle stuck, female, 2 miles past mile marker. I laughed like sure, cool, 2 miles in a blizzard, no problem. I hit accept because the app makes you feel guilty in a way a person never could. I tried to call the number. Nothing. I tried a message. The spinner just spun, then failed like the phone itself was shrugging at me. I took the exit to a frontage road because the highway looked like a pileup waiting to happen. The frontage road turned into a slick, unplowed strip with trees leaning over it like they wanted to fall. No lights, no houses, no tire tracks I trusted. I kept thinking if I slide off here, nobody even sees me. That thought sat in my lap like a weight. I slowed down more and immediately regretted it because low speed in deep snow turns your car into a sled. I felt the tires float. I corrected once, twice, then the whole car slid sideways like it wanted a nap. I tapped the brake and the rear swung harder. The next thing I knew, my front bumper kissed a drift and the engine bogged down. I tried rocking it forward and back, but the snow grabbed me like hands. I smelled hot rubber and stopped before I'd bury myself deeper. I sat there with my shoulders tight, staring at the hood while snow stacked on it fast, like someone was burying me on purpose. I tried reverse again. The tires spun and the car didn't move an inch. I tried drive. Same thing. I killed the music because it annoyed me that anything could be normal right then. I texted dispatch. No send. I tried calling, no ring. I opened the app and watched my GPS wobble like it didn't know where it was either. I turned hazards on and watched the orange blink fade into the storm like a weak heartbeat. The heater blew warm for a minute. Then that lukewarm nothing that feels like your car is rationing comfort. I cracked the driver window a hair because I kept picturing exhaust pooling under the car, and the cold punched my ear and made my jaw ache. I told myself, stay in the car. Don't wander. Don't be a hero. Don't do the stupid movie thing where you go look. I checked my mirrors anyway, over and over, because sitting still makes your brain invent footsteps. Then headlights slid out of the white behind me. Not bright, just there. A truck rolled up slow and parked offset like it didn't want to be directly behind me. My first stupid relief lasted 1 second. The truck didn't pull closer to help. It just sat with lights off, engine running. I could hear it through the storm, that low diesel idle that sounds like a throat clearing. A door opened. A shape moved, hunched against the wind. He didn't wave. He walked to my passenger side, not my driver's side. He tried the handle once. Locked. He tried again, harder, like I'd magically changed my mind. I leaned over and slammed the lock button again, even though it was already locked. I grabbed my tire iron from the floor and kept it low where he couldn't see it. He cupped his hands to the glass. I saw his mouth move. I cracked the window a finger because cold makes you stupid. "You alone?" he said, like it was casual. I shut the window. "Keep moving." He smiled like I'd entertained him. He pointed at my hood, then at his truck, like he wanted me out in the wind with him. I shook my head and flipped my dome light off so he couldn't read my face. I watched him in the side mirror. He stood there a second, not angry, not rushed, just waiting like he was timing something. He moved back toward his truck slow, then stopped and looked at my rear like he was checking where my trunk line sat under the snow. My heart did this ugly little stutter because that's not what helpers look at. Helpers look at your tires. Helpers look at your battery. He walked back to his truck, and I thought, okay, he's leaving. Instead, he cut his headlights completely. The dark got thicker. My world shrank to my own beams and the sound of wind scraping the car. I heard boots crunching near my rear bumper. I heard metal tap metal. Not random, not accidental. Top, top, like he was testing a latch. My trunk latch clicked once, soft. That sound crawled straight up my spine. I didn't sit there and consider options. I reacted. I grabbed the tire iron tighter and crawled into the back seat, twisting around so I could stare at the trunk seem like it was a mouth. I didn't pop the trunk. I didn't get out. I honked the horn in bursts until my hand cramped. The snow swallowed the sound, but not all of it. I kept doing it anyway, because it was the only thing I could do that didn't involve opening a door. The tapping stopped. Then it started again, closer, lower, like he was down by the latch. I heard a scrape, like metal on painted metal, and my stomach dropped because I pictured a Slim Jim or some cheap tool sliding under the seam. I kept honking. I kept my eyes locked on that line. The car rocked slightly once, and I couldn't tell if it was wind or him leaning on it. I tried calling 911 again. The call failed instantly like it didn't even try. I wanted to scream just to make a sound that felt like mine, but I didn't because screaming in a sealed car feels pointless and I didn't want to waste energy. I started shaking hard enough that the tire iron rattled against my knee. I thought about the female 2 miles past mile marker call, and it hit me how easy it would be to write that into an app. How easy it would be to create a reason for me to come down a dead road in a storm. I thought about the way he asked you alone first. Not you okay, not need a tow, just that, like he was checking inventory. The tapping shifted to the side of the trunk, then stopped completely. I waited for the handle on a door, waited for glass to crack, waited for anything. Nothing. Then the truck's engine revved. Tires spun. Snow sprayed. The taillights drifted away, red smears dissolving into white. I didn't relax. I didn't do that stupid exhale of relief. I stayed frozen because the storm makes sound weird, and he could have just parked 30 feet away with the lights off. I sat there until my legs cramped, until my hands went numb, until the heater blew cold and I had to cycle it like that would do anything. I tried rocking the car again, gentle, and all it did was dig me deeper. I watched the fuel needle creep down and tried not to imagine it hitting empty before daylight. I kept my phone in my palm like it could suddenly grow signal if I squeezed hard enough. Hours later, real hours, not it felt like hours, a plow finally crawled by at dawn, slow and ugly, amber lights flashing through the gray. The driver stopped, climbed down, and stared at my half-buried car like he was looking at a wrecked animal. He didn't smile. He didn't joke. He just said, "Jesus, you're lucky." I tried to tell him about the truck, about the tapping, and he cut me off with a sharp look like he didn't want details. He hooked me up, yanked me out in one pull, and told me to get off that road before it drifted over again. His hand shook too, not from cold, just that tired irritation you get when you've been out all night cleaning up other people's bad choices. I drove home with my hazards on, gripping the wheel so hard my fingers hurt, flinching at every set of lights behind me. I didn't stop for coffee. I didn't stop for gas. I just wanted my door locks and my stupid apartment walls. When I got home, my trunk was open a crack. Not wide, just enough for snow to dust the carpet. He didn't steal anything. That was the point. He wanted me to know he could have. Me, I took the night shift as a building super for a row of old rentals because the pay came with a free unit and I needed a reset after a breakup. And my plan was to keep things boring. Salt the steps, check the boiler, answer tenant calls, and sleep with my phone on loud in case pipes froze. The snow started around dinner, and I expected nothing worse than shoveling and a couple angry texts. I didn't want drama. I wanted routine. That's why I picked nights. Less people, less talking, less bullshit. Tenants didn't care. By 10 p.m., my phone already had messages about the front steps being slick. I went out, salted, scraped, and kept moving. Management handed me a ring of keys that looked ancient and told me half the doors stick, so you just wiggle it. I hated that. A door either locks or it doesn't. By midnight, the street turned silent in that thick way snow does. No cars, no laughter, just wind and the scrape of my shovel. I cleared the front walk, did the back steps, and went inside to warm up. The hallway smelled like wet boots and old paint. The building made its usual pops and ticks as it cooled. I did my rounds. Boiler temp, pressure, sump pump, fire doors. Downstairs, the basement cages sat in a row like little stalls, chicken wire and padlocks, most of them dusty. I sat on my bed with my coat still on, half asleep, when my phone buzzed and the Ring app lit up. At 2 a.m., my Ring camera pinged, motion at the back door. I pulled up the feed and saw nothing but blowing flakes. Then the camera flickered and I saw a person's shoulder fill the frame, too close, like they leaned right into it. The feed cut. When it came back, the camera showed the empty landing again. My first thought was, someone knows where the camera is. I grabbed my keys and a flashlight and told myself it was probably a tenant coming in drunk and bumping the lens. I told myself that because the other option made my stomach drop. Outside, the snow lay smooth in the courtyard. No footprints. Then I looked closer. There were prints, barely, like someone had stepped in the same spots twice, careful, trying not to leave a trail. They started at the alley fence, crossed to the back door, and then stopped. No return line. Nothing leading away. I walked the perimeter with the light low. The fence gate sat half open, even though I'd latched it earlier. I closed it, relatched, and went back to the back door. The lock looked fine. The deadbolt sat turned. That's when I noticed the basement window under the stairs. The little glass pane was fogged from inside, like warm breath had hit it. My throat tightened. Nobody had any reason to be down there. The tenants had storage cages, and they never touched them in winter. I wiped the glass, and it fogged again right away, fast enough to feel deliberate. I opened the basement door, and the smell hit me. Sour sweat and stale cigarettes, like a jacket left in a bar for a week. I clicked the light, and it buzzed on weak. Boxes sat crooked in one corner, not collapsed, arranged. A milk crate held a candle stub. A cheap phone charger ran to an outlet. Someone had been plugging in down here. A shopping cart sat half covered with a tarp. Cardboard was taped to the wall like insulation. A bucket with a snapped lid sat tucked behind it. It wasn't a quick hide. It was a setup. I didn't announce myself. I backed up the stairs and locked the basement door from the top, hands slick. Then the knob turned from below. Slow. Testing. Like whoever was down there felt the lock and decided to see if I'd do something dumb. It stopped, then turned again, harder, and the latch clicked against the plate with this soft metal kiss that made my stomach twist. I called the cops. They took 40 minutes because the roads were shit. While I waited, I heard tapping from the basement door. Not frantic. 3 taps, pause, 3 taps, pause, like a person knocking on a bedroom door. It felt polite, which made it worse. I stood there and did that thing where you try to breathe quietly so you don't give yourself away in your own damn hallway. When the cops finally showed, they looked tired, like I'd called them about a raccoon. I walked them around back, showed them the prints and the fog window. The fog was still there. They opened the basement with me behind them. They found a sleeping bag, trash, and a set of keys on the floor. Not my keys. A ring of building keys, the kind maintenance uses. The guy was gone. They said he probably slipped out through the coal chute to the alley. One of them pried open a rusty panel in the wall, and snow blew in from the other side. There were fresh scuffs on the rim. They took the keys, told me to call again if he came back, and left me with my own building again. After that, the back hall never felt neutral. I kept thinking about those keys. Clean cuts, labeled, not some busted copy from hardware store. It meant somebody, at some point, lost a set or sold a set or didn't give a damn. By morning, I was already fighting with the office on the phone, getting blamed, getting told to tighten up. I told them if they didn't move on locks today, I was out. I shoveled again because the tenant still needed a path, even while I was losing my mind. A guy tried to prop the back door with a brick so he could run to his car without messing with keys. I yanked the brick away and told him to stop. He rolled his eyes and called me dramatic. I called him a selfish dumbass. I checked the basement window every time I passed, and it kept fogging in little bursts like the air down there stayed warm from a body even after the cops cleared it. I tried to sleep after they left and couldn't. I sat on my kitchen floor with the phone charger in the wall and the camera feed open like a TV show I couldn't stop watching. Every 10 minutes I'd hear the building shift and my body would go rigid. I walked to the back hall over and over like pacing could keep the place under my name. I put my hand on the basement door. The metal knob felt colder than the air, like someone had held it from the other side. I leaned in and listened. Nothing. Then a soft scrape, low, like a boot brushing concrete. I backed up so fast I hit the stairs. I didn't call the cops again because what was I going to say? I heard my own basement. That's how you get written off. Instead, I pulled the breaker that fed the basement outlets. It was petty and pointless, but it made me feel like I'd done something. A minute later, the tapping started again. Same 3-in-pause rhythm, slower now like he had all night. I stared at the door until my eyes burned. At some point it stopped, and the quiet felt worse than the noise. Quiet meant movement. Quiet meant he'd figured out another way. I checked the outside gate through the peephole and saw nothing but snow drifting sideways. When I finally forced myself to open the back door, the courtyard looked untouched again. No fresh prints, no the dog marks, just smooth, white like it had never happened. I almost laughed. That's how close I was to snapping. Near dawn, I went down with the flashlight again, just to make sure the cops hadn't missed something. I didn't go into the basement, I just looked through the little window in the door. The camp corner sat darker than before, like the tarp had shifted. The milk crate was turned. The candle stub was gone. Somebody had cleaned up, quietly, while the rest of the building slept. I noticed something else then. The basement door frame had 2 tiny new scratches right at latch height, thin and fresh like someone had tested a key and pulled it out slow. That made my blood go hot. If he had keys, he didn't need to knock. He knocked because he wanted me awake. He wanted me paying attention. When the first tenants came down for work, they stepped over my salt, complained about the snow, and didn't even look at the basement door. I wanted to grab them and shake them and say, "Someone is down there. Stop acting like this place is just an address." Instead, I ate it and waited for daylight to do what daylight always does, make you feel crazy for being scared at night. I pulled up the Ring history and scrubbed back for the week. Same thing kept happening at night. Little flickers on the back landing, like someone stepping close enough to block the lens and then backing off. I'd written them off as snow glare. Now they look like practice. I called the office again and got a different answer from a different person, like they were trying to wear me down with confusion. I drove to a hardware store as soon as it opened, bought deadbolts with my own money because I didn't trust them to act fast, and shoved the receipt in my pocket like evidence. The next day, I replaced locks and cameras. I told tenants to stop propping doors. People rolled their eyes at me like I was being dramatic. Then a week later, another snowstorm hit, and fresh prints appeared in the courtyard again. Same careful spacing, same disappearing stop at the back door, like he wanted to remind me the building wasn't mine. It was just my turn to pretend it was. Me and my sister planned a quick hike to a frozen overlook because we were stir crazy. Our cabin had no internet, and the plan was to be boring about it. Follow the blaze trail, turn around before dark, keep the car packed with blankets, and text our location to our dad, even if the message didn't send right away. We weren't chasing a spooky adventure. We were trying to burn energy and get back for chili. We did the annoying responsible checklist too. Blankets in the trunk, headlamp each, hand warmers, and I clipped the keys to my belt loop like I was scared the mountain would steal them. We'd already been snapping at each other all morning over stupid cabin crap, and I told myself the hike would burn that off. The snow started light, pretty, the kind people post on Instagram. Then wind picked up and the world erased itself. The The trees blurred into the same gray shape. The trail markers disappeared under rhyme. My sister kept walking like confidence counted as a compass. I kept checking every trunk for the next blaze, then checking my watch, then checking her back like if I stared hard enough, I could steer her. The cold bit through my gloves and made my fingertips sting. I told her to turn back. She snapped at me, tired, cold, scared, the usual ingredients. I grabbed her sleeve, and she jerked away hard enough to stumble. She called me a bitch under her breath. I said something worse. That fight still sits in my chest because it mattered. That's when we lost the last clear sign of the trail. We tried to follow our own footprints. The wind filled them in behind us like the snow didn't want proof. We took 5 steps, turned around, and our tracks already looked soft like someone had brushed a hand over them. My sister kept insisting we were close, and that turning around would just get us lost in the same white. I said that was the dumbest logic I'd ever heard. She said I was panicking because I needed to be in control. I grabbed her arm again, and she ripped it away and started walking faster, like she could outrun my fear. My phone died at 11%. Not slowly. It just went black like it gave up. I jammed the side button until my thumb hurt. Nothing. My sister's phone showed searching and then flashed the low battery symbol and shut down too. She smacked it against her leg and swore like the phone had betrayed her personally. I told her we should stop and shelter in the trees, get out of the wind, wait for it to ease, then try again with daylight. She said waiting was how you froze. I said running around was how you froze too, and at least waiting would keep us together. She rolled her eyes at me like I was giving a lecture instead of trying to keep us alive. We kept moving because panic makes you stupid and motion feels like control. We walked downhill, thinking downhill meant road. The slope got steeper and the snow started grabbing at our calves. I hit a buried branch and went down hard. Snow poured down my collar and melted against my spine like ice water. For a second, I just laid there, sucking air, and I watched her keep going. She didn't even turn at first. She just kept stomping into the white, and something in me went cold in a different way. I screamed her name, and she finally spun around, eyes wide, mouth open like she was about to accuse me of doing it on purpose. We lurched forward again, both of us pissed, both of us scared, both of us acting like the other person was the main problem. The trees opened into a flat clearing that wasn't on the map. Snow lay smooth like a blank page. No tracks, no deadfall, nothing. That clean, untouched look made my stomach flip because it felt staged, like the storm had polished it for us. My sister pulled the paper map from my pocket and tried to unfold it with numb fingers. The wind slapped it toward the corner, and she snapped, screaming that I never listen, that I always have to be right. I yelled back that she was walking us into a white wall and pretending it was a plan. Her face went tight and ugly, and I saw it hit her the moment she realized she didn't know where the hell we were. Then we saw a light. Not a headlamp, not a cabin window. A single white point moving between trunks at the far edge. Low to the ground, steady like someone carrying it waist high. It didn't bounce like a flashlight. It glided. My sister said, "Thank fuck," like help had finally showed up. She started toward it. I grabbed her pack strap, and she turned on me, eyes wet with anger. "Let go." I said no. That's not right. She yanked free and ran, boots crunching, breath tearing out of her. I chased, slipped, fell, came up with snow down my collar. The light slid deeper into the woods, always the same distance ahead, never closer. My sister kept shouting into the wind, and her voice sounded wrong, like the snow swallowed the middle of it. She kept sprinting anyway, chasing that dot like it owed her warmth. I got close enough to grab her sleeve, and she ripped it away and screamed that I'd rather be scared than saved. That sentence still makes me sick because it was so unfair and so human. I caught her at the edge of shallow ditch hidden under powder. She stepped, sank to her thigh, and screamed. I dropped, grabbed her jacket under the arms, and hauled. My gloves slipped on wet fabric. My fingers burned, then went dead. She thrashed, and for a second, she fought me like I was the thing trapping her. I dug my boots in, leaned back, and yanked until she popped free and slammed into me. Her boot was full of snow. Her leg started going numb. And the whole time that light waited between trees like it was patient. I forced her to look at me. I told her we were done with that shit. She tried to argue, still staring past my shoulder, still believing. I called her a fucking idiot. She called me controlling. We were both half right and fully out of time. I hooked my hand through her pack strap again and dragged her away. When we finally turned away from it, the forest got quieter, too quiet, like we'd done something it didn't like. The wind dropped for one beat, and I heard a soft scrape off to the right, like something sliding over snow without lifting its feet. My sister heard it too because she grabbed my sleeve so hard it hurt. Then the wind surged and the sound vanished, but the feeling stayed. We walked with our shoulders up, waiting for something to brush us, waiting for that light to reappear in front of us like a reward for coming back. We shuffled blind for what felt like hours, following nothing. My sister started slurring a little. Her eyes went glassy. She kept trying to stop, to rest, and I kept hauling her up because resting felt like quitting. She cursed at me, and I cursed back because anger kept us awake. At one point, she tried to pull away again, and I shoved her hard, and she fell on her ass in the snow. She stared at me like she hated me. I stared back like I hated her. Then she started crying, not loud, just leaking, and that scared me more than the storm because it looked like she was giving up. Then we hit something hardwood, a fence line, and behind it, the road. Our car sat half buried, but real, like a miracle. I fumbled the keys so badly I dropped them twice. The lock was iced over and the key wouldn't go in. I ripped off my glove, stabbed the key in, twisted, and my bare fingers screamed from the cold. The door finally popped open, and we fell inside like the car was a shelter and not just a box with wheels. We got inside, slammed doors, cranked heat, and my sister started shaking so hard she couldn't speak. Through the windshield, snow swirled in the headlights. And at the edge of that beam, right where the trees started, the same white light hovered for a second. Perfect, still, then slid sideways and disappeared like it never existed. I sat there with my hands locked on the steering wheel while the vents coughed cold air, then warm. My sister's teeth clicked so hard I thought they'd crack. She tried to say my name, and it came out like a broken whisper. I kept telling her to breathe, and she kept looking past the windshield like she expected that dot to slide back into view. We drove out slow. We didn't tell anyone the light part because it sounded insane. We told them whiteout, got turned around. That's true. It's just not the whole truth. Sometimes at night, when snow falls and everything goes muffled, I still see that steady little point in my head, and I feel it doing what it did back there, waiting for someone to get angry, get separated, and follow it.